Hello and good morning friends, welcome to CEC live lectures. Dear friends, today in this session we are going to talk on one of the interesting topics, and today's topic is assessment of personality. For this discussion we have once again with us in our studios Dr. Parveen Sharma. Dr. Parveen Sharma is Associate Professor in Hindu College of Education, Sonipat. Dr. Sharma is a prolific as well as a dynamic professor who has contributed a lot in the area of academics. She has been teaching since 31 years, and in her 31 years of academic career, she served as a principal in RLS College of Education. She has authored numerous books, as well as number of her articles have been published in reputed journals both at national and international level, as well as many of the students have pursued their PhD under her able guidance. She is always seen involved in various one or the another academic work. She has wide interest in writings, and in her writings the reflection of the society could be seen. Friends, if you want to ask questions from Dr. Parveen Sharma on today's topic, that is assessment of personality, then you can call right in the CEC studios. You can contact us through our toll-free number. Our number is 1800110430. I repeat, our number is 1800110430. All friends are requested to call in the last 10 minutes of 1 hour lecture, so that first you can have deep insight into today's topic, that is assessment of personality, and afterwards that in last 10 minutes we promise to give answers to your questions through Dr. Parveen Sharma. So let's welcome our guest Dr. Parveen Sharma, and let's try to understand today's topic in detail. Hello ma'am, welcome to the lecture.
Thank you Geetika ji. Good morning viewers and listeners. Today in this session we will talk about assessment of personality. You know, personality is the dynamic organization within the individual of those psychophysical systems that determine his or her unique adjustment to the environment. You know, inner and outer aspects of the personality of the individual, there goes on interaction, and that interaction determines the ability of the individual to fit into the environment or into the culture where one is placed. You know, this outer and inner interaction determines the personality, and this adjustment is the product, and the interaction is the process. This goes on, and by now in our earlier series of lectures we have discussed what do we mean by personality and what are the factors which influence personality, how the personality is formed, that is in our childhood, not in the adulthood, and what are the type and trait theories. We have discussed in detail the Freud, Jung and Adler, the great psychologists, how the trait and type theories we can classify the individual into different categories. But above all, now the question arises how we can assess the personality, because when one individual comes to the clinical psychologist or to the psychologist or to the teacher for some therapy, for some consultation, so it becomes essential for the teacher or for the psychologist to come to know what kind of personality the individual is, and that is a very challenging and difficult issue, because before we just suggest the strategies for that individual, we will have to determine what kind of personality he or she is, because by now we understand that there are the individual differences. Even the two identical twins who are having same heredity, maybe having the same environment, have the differences in personality, because there is the third factor, that is the individual differences, and the other factors which influence personality we already have discussed. Now the basic question which arises is how to assess, because if we come to assess on the basis of outer personality, that becomes very deceptive. Here I would like to cite the quote of a Hindi poet which is like this: सांप दुविधा में है, सांप दुविधा में है मैं कहाँ रहूं, सांप दुविधा में है मैं कहाँ रहूं, क्योंकि बाम्बी में तो आदमी रहने लगा है. You know, this is a great satire on the personality of the individual in the present scenario. It's like it becomes very difficult to decide the viewpoint about the personality of the individual, because what is seen, that is not actual, and how the attitude, interest and habits and other likings or the other phenomena or the other interest or the ability or the potentials which comes under the head of the inner personality. So that is our question today, that is our effort today, how a teacher, how the parents, how the psychologist can come to know that how can we assess the personality. We are really thankful to our earlier psychologist and the educationist and the interpreter who has just presented the things which are not seen, which are the abstract, into the digits. Like we cannot see, we cannot come to know how the honest, how much honest one individual is, and that has been counted in the digits on the basis of intelligence also, and what kind of personality one individual is having. So let us see in our further discussion how this outer and inner interaction goes on, and in the process of this interaction we come to know what kind of personality individual is. Now how can we decide? We assess, appraise or evaluate because it helps us to know the physical, mental, emotional and social behavior of individual. It also helps us in knowing the unconscious mind. Unless we have succeeded in measuring the personality of the students, it will not be possible for us to furnish proper guidance to the students. Yes, just now, few minutes back, I was speaking to you before we suggest the strategies, we will have to decide what kind of personality one is. I would give the example of a doctor. If one patient goes to the physician, before just prescribing the medicine, the doctor would like to say what are the symptoms and what kind of potential or the capacity of the individual patient is having, what kind of medicine should be given to particular patient. So these kind of personality tests were just invented that on the basis of those tests we can decide that these are the persons who can be fit into the army, who can fit into the teaching area, who can fit into the medicine or the architect or the judiciary and so on. So this kind of assessment of personality helps us to know the background of the individual so that we can suggest the strategies. There comes the three method. On the basis of these three methods, we try to assess the personality. One is subjective, another is objective, and the third one is the projective techniques. One by one, we'll discuss. Let us first discuss the subjective methods. Under subjective methods, there comes the autobiography, interview, questionnaire, and personality inventories. So, first of all, I'll talk about autobiography. Autobiography is the story of the subject narrated or written by himself or herself. The subject narrates or writes about various aims, ambitions, achievements, attitudes, adventures, events, experiences, interests and activities of life. In this method, the subject has freedom to write according to his or her experiences and manners. It is economical and very useful to explore the personality of the person. But when we go through the autobiography, and on the basis of autobiography, we try to assess the personality of the individual. There comes the flaws, because in the surrounding areas we do not have all the saints and Mahatmas. When the word Mahatma comes on my lips, I would like to say only the Mahatma Gandhi could dare to write his own flaws in his autobiography. So autobiography sometimes has its own limitation, because on the basis of autobiography, it is difficult to assess the personality. It has its own limitation, like subject. Generally, subject means the person. In psychology, for the person we use the word subject. Subject exaggerates his or her qualities and conceals his drawbacks. Will not mention what are his drawbacks or the lacuna in his or her personality. So autobiographies are generally full of lies. We cannot have many saints and Mahatmas among us. Autobiographies, though true, may be full of irrelevant and insignificant things, like when one goes on narrating or just describing the things in the past, sometimes may go out of the track, and sometimes tries to mention those of the things which are out of that relevance and which are not of the interest to the readers. The subject writes from memory, and sometimes the memory may fail. Sometimes the ideas come in our mind and we think that whenever we will pen down, and that moment it may happen that those ideas may slip from the mind. So sometimes those memories go out of the mind. The subject may suffer from language handicaps. Language handicaps, I mean to say, the ideas, the content is in the mind of the writer, but sometimes there may come the errors on the basis of language. So these are the limitations of the autobiography, but this is one of the subjective method of assessing the personality. And in the list of subjective method, there comes the second method, that is the interview. Interview is a face-to-face relationship between interviewer and interviewee. Interviewer asks some questions to get information from the interviewee. The answers he receives from him or her are collected and interpreted as expressions of his various traits. My dear friends, my dear listeners, for having the proper and appropriate interview, the person who is having our interview has to be expert in that field, because if you want to select the person for the particular area, as I was saying, that suppose we have to select the persons that who can be fit into the army or who can be fit into the teaching area, the question which are framed to assess the personality of that subject should be framed in a way that the inner personality of the individual comes out, because outwardly sometimes the person who is appearing for interview say yes, I can do this, but the questionnaire which are framed or the questions which are framed by the person who is having our interview should be framed like that is able to draw out the inner interest of the person who is appearing. There are various types of interview: diagnostic interview, counseling interview, admission interview, employment interview, administrative interview, informative interview, and research interview. It depends for which purpose we are conducting the interview. Accordingly, we will decide that this type of interview should be held. Further, let me tell you what are the advantages of interview. As we were saying that sometime, not all the time, autobiographies are having lies. We can get a total view of personality. It is most flexible and dynamic way of understanding personality, because this way, when you put questions to the person, you can judge the verbal ability or expression or communicating power of the individual and the content which is lying there in the mind of the individual, whether the person is having the knowledge of that particular area for which we want to select that personnel. It is a natural method and it can be used for a variety of purposes, but it has its own limitation. It is subjective, because the person who is conducting the interview is also a human being, may interpret accordingly. So it becomes subjective when the person is giving the answer and the person who is conducting interview interpret the answer according to his knowledge or his liking, and it is time consuming. It needs experts which are generally not available. This is very important. When we say that personality can be judged by conducting interview, so we need the expert person, and there is the dearth of the expertise person in every area. So we have to be cautious that for this method we need experts, and digression may take place during the interview and spoil our results. Sometimes when trying to know further and further information from the person, sometimes the discussion may goes out of the track, which should not be there. Sometimes it is difficult to interpret the results of an interview, and sometimes it happens there is the board of the experts. So one person is satisfied with the questions and the other person is not satisfied. So sometimes the common decision comes out with a difficulty. So these are its own limitation. And the third is the questionnaire. A questionnaire contains a list of questions which are put to the individual. Whether you agree to this, it is given to the individual whose personality we want to assess. These questions are to answered in writing or by checking yes or no. They are prepared in such a manner that desired information can be obtained. They have been framed to test various personality traits like sociability, stability, adjustment, submissiveness, dominance, introversion, extroversion, self-confidence. The limitation of this technique is that the subject may not be aware of his drawback, capacities and emotional features. Even if he is aware, he may not reveal them honestly and frankly. I tell you very personal experiences when I have counseling sessions or when I teach my students. Most of the time, in the beginning lectures, when I introductory lectures, when I ask the students, well, each one of you will tell me your 5 personality strength points and 5 weakness, and surprisingly sometimes it happens the students may hesitate because they do not know what are the strength points in his or her personality, because we feel that the teachers and the parents they should assess the personality traits, and even after passing the graduation and post graduation classes, students are not able to know or may not even pen down or to give a verbal expression to their personality. It means one has to be sure. Sometimes we do not know our drawbacks, and one is not having the capacity to, when someone tells us our drawbacks, वैसे तो कहने को कबीर जी कह गए हैं कि निंदक नियरे राखिए आंगन कुटी छवाए बिन साबुन बिन पानी बिना निर्मल करे स्वभाव. But my dear friends, it is the truth. When one tries to tell our drawbacks, we are not ready to listen those drawbacks. So that is the drawback of this questionnaire. Now the next is the personality inventories. The personality inventory is somewhat similar to the questionnaires. Personality inventories are used to study the attitudes and other characteristics of persons. Inventories existed in the form of questionnaires. In inventories, some questions are linked and the subject gives his answers, thereby giving expression to his feelings. Although personality inventory resembles with questionnaire in so many ways like administration, scoring, interpretation, yet it differs from questionnaire in 2 ways. What are those 2 ways? Questionnaire is general advice and can be used for collecting all kinds of information, but personality inventory is specially designed to seek answers about the person and his personality. These are the 2 terms which are vaguely used, but I want that my listeners, my students, my audience should be clear about the meaning of questionnaire and about the meaning of inventory. And secondly, the questions that are generally addressed to the second person in questionnaire. For example, do you often enjoy social dancing? Do you enjoy painting? Do you enjoy yoga? So this is an example of questionnaire. But in inventories, they generally addressed to the first person, like I often enjoy social dancing, yes or no. I often enjoy this activity, yes or no. I enjoy going for shopping alone or not, yes or no. So this way the questionnaire forms is addressed to the second person, and in the personality inventory the language of the question framing is addressed to the first person. Then how can we assess that this is the good questionnaire or good personality inventory? I would like to mention some of the characteristics of good personality inventory on the basis of which we can select, like when we have to go for action research for our PhD thesis, for our MA or MPhil thesis. So when students make the questionnaires or they themselves use the personality inventory, so we suggest them that these are the characteristics of personality inventory. If you use the standardized one or you construct your own personality inventory, so these are the characteristics which should contain your personality inventory. Like significant information, we should be specific what we want to know, which is not obtainable from other sources. It deals with significant topic, what actually you want to know. There should be no ambiguous language, exactly what you want to know. Be specific and short and attractive. The language of the question should be short one and should be attractive, should be catchy, and clear purpose. The purpose of personality inventory should be made clear, so that to whom we are asking the question without hesitation, without any hitch, one can answer. Well worded. We have to be very cautious about our words, not in the inventory only, everywhere, because these are our words. If we use good words, we can make the other person our friend. If we use not correct words, then the other person may come out our enemy. And so in the inventory also we have to be very careful about the selection of our words. Personality inventory should be well worded. Clear direction to the student should be given clearly, and good order. It should present questions in good order, proceeding from general to more specific response, from simple to complex, because these are our maxims of teaching also, that in the beginning we should ask the simple questions, then we can go to the difficult one. First we can ask the concrete things, and then we can further move to abstract things. For example, if we are teaching the small students, first we will say this is a table because this is a concrete thing, and later on we will be telling the students about the abstract things, that all of you should be honest, because honesty is abstract idea that can be taught after the clarity of the concrete aspects. Then sufficient interest. It should be of sufficient interest, easy to tabulate and interpret, because after getting the information we have to interpret it. In the beginning also, when I was talking about interview method, I spoke to you that the interpreter should be expert one, because the answers of the question which has been given by the candidate should be interpreted in a appropriate manner, and it should be able to tabulate easily. No embarrassing questions. Sometimes the personal questions are asked which should not be there, because it drags the interview or it drags the inventory or the process into unwanted or unrequired side. So we have to be cautious that no personal question should be asked, and one should not feel embarrassed. Then before I proceed to the objective methods, I would conclude that the subjective methods are the methods which on the basis of which we try to assess the personality of the individual, but they have their own flaws, like autobiography, questionnaire, inventory. So these are having their own flaws. So if the subjective method is having their own flaws, own errors, what can be the next method? The next method is the objective methods. Objective method. First method here is observation. You observe the person in a general situation. When you are conducting interview, when you are at a senior hierarchy, definitely the other person will behave in a well manner. But suppose before the conducting of the interview, you are traveling in the same metro where that candidate is also traveling, and you observe the behavior of that candidate. That person is not appropriate to the disabled, to the women, or to the other general passengers. And after 2 hours, when you reach for conducting interview, you see that same candidate comes for the interview. So before asking any question, you come to know, because you have observed. So observation is really a very good method, tries to find out the degree of traits which are present in the individual. Because outwardly, if you ask, are you cooperative? Yes sir, yes ma'am, the person will say, but you have actually observed the candidate. So method is time consuming. Of course, you can observe the inner traits or the outer behavior, but in the observation of the child, sometimes errors may creep in, because the behavior of the child is changing from one situation to another situation. So the interpretation of the child's behavior on the basis of observation is not so much accurate. After the observation, there comes the situation test. Here, behavior of an individual is observed in situations which are created artificially. Traits like honesty, sincerity, and cooperation can be tested. But it has its own limitation. I'll give you one example of testing the honesty. In some psychological testing, there were 30 students, and all the 30 students were given one coin, and they were asked that there is a dark room, and inside that dark room there is a money box. All of you have to go into the room one by one, and you have to drop that coin into that box. And after that process, it was observed that only 20 coins were there. It means 10 students, after reaching in the room, decided and thought that no one is observing us, why not to slip that coin in our pocket. So that is the situation test of the honesty. Then there is the case history. Here information is collected from all the sources like psychological test, intelligence test, aptitude test, achievement test, and interest inventory. Self-report, report of friends, parents, teachers, home visit, checklist, interview, and direct observation. In case history, if we take a particular child, we try to gather the information from all the sources. From parents, I'm sorry to say, being a mother, I would like to say, when we try to get the information from the mothers, it may not be correct, because no mother will tell the flaws of the child. So the other sources in the family or the nearby, we can collect the information and we can tabulate the information. But it has its own limitations. Sometimes in data collection, we go to the school to get the information about the child. We collect the 10 students, 10 peer group. It may be possible all those 10 peer group may be the enemy of that particular child. So we will get the false data, and they may be of the fan of that child. In that case also, we get the wrong information. So the case history has its own advantages and disadvantages. We'll discuss later on in the other session. So I hope by now it would be clear to the listeners that the subjective method has its own disadvantages and advantages, and the objective method have also their advantages and disadvantages. Rest of the techniques or the procedure we will discuss in the coming session. Thank you. Hello viewers and listeners. Now we'll discuss the remaining techniques of the assessment of personality. As we were talking about the case history, this method is very useful for understanding the personality pattern of problem children, delinquent children, backward children, gifted children, maladjusted children and other special children, because these children may not give the answer to the questionnaire, to the personality inventory. So for such children, we have to adopt the method of case history. Through case history, we try to collect the information from the various sources. So sometime in our data collection, there may come the errors. So we have to be choosy, be selective about collecting the data. That should be good one. So sampling is very important. It has its limitation because it is time consuming. It is difficult to prepare. We need experts for the interpretation, and sometimes there is the lack of the cooperation from parents and teachers as well. As I was talking to you, that the parents are not fair. They do not cooperate in telling the exact personality flaws of the child. So parent teacher association are made for this very purpose only, so that parents and teachers as well can interact with each other and try to sort out the solution of the problems of such children. So we have to be clear hearted in giving the opinion about our children. And next method, which is objective, is sociometric method. Sociometric method is very helpful in deciding the social traits of personality of an individual. Here we come to know how one individual is interacting with the other persons of the group. Suppose we are organizing a tour and we give the option to the students that these are the 10 teachers with whom you will like to go. Give the top priorities. So this way we come to know who is getting the more choices. The subject can select any number of members to select his first, second or third choice. With the help of this information, a graphic picture of social relation in a group can be prepared. The graphic picture of social relation is called a sociogram. Sociograms are measures of social acceptance. When we make such kind of sociogram, sometimes the results are seen like this, that A is opting for the B is opting for the D is opting for the M, and M is opting for the other member. So this way it happens that it is rare when the mutual groups are formed. If A is liking B and B is liking A, it is rare. So this way sociogram are prepared, but we need experts also to prepare the sociogram, because the question should be relevant and they should be kept to the purpose. They should fulfill the purpose. So this way sociograms are very good to assess the personality of the individual. We come to know whether the person is isolate or the person is star. Star means who is liked most, and isolate who remains alone, or the reject is who is not liked by anyone. And sometime it happens when a newcomer comes, maybe isolate, and after 1 month or 2 months you try to locate the things, you come to know that the person has become the stars on the basis of his or her traits. Then what are the other advantages of sociogram? It helps in discovering the patterns of choices and rejection on the basis of choices and rejection, because we are trying to know the inner aspects of the personality. So the choices or the rejection of the individual tells clearly about the hidden aspect of the individual. And it is also said in the day-to-day life that you are known by the choices, by the selection you make. So your choices should be appropriate one, and it facilitates the appraisal of social acceptance in the society where you are moving around. It is essential that you should be accepted by the society, only then you will remain happy, and a happy person will sprinkle the fragrance of happiness on the others in the society. It helps in identifying leaders, isolates mutual choices, cliques and rejectors. As in the earlier techniques, I was speaking to you, when we have to select the personals for the different areas, we can select on the basis of these choices. In the intelligence scales also, Army beta test and Army alpha gamma beta test were made during the first war or the second war, so that the appropriate persons can be fit into the army. So, or the leaders, some are having interest in painting, some are leaders, some are lawyers. So, on the basis of this sociogram or sociometric method, we can select the personas. But it has its own limitation. Group structure is dynamic. It changes from time to time. A person who joins a new group, as I was talking, may be an isolate but can become a star or a leader later on. Then the another objective method is anecdotal record. It is a specialized form of incidental observation. It is different from the report card. Sometimes it is confused with that report card. So, be particular in understanding about the anecdotal record. It is a description of child's conduct and personality in terms of frequent, brief and concrete observation of the student made and recorded by the teacher. A summary of these chronological observations give a good observation about the personality of the individual. If I talk about the teaching area, every teacher, especially in the schools, should maintain a diary where daily the particular incident or particular thing about particular event or occurrence of anything about the particular child should be noted down that particular day, because after some days the teacher may forget and the irrelevant information may be filled in. So, anecdotal record is like when we report some incidental reports. Then comes the rating scale. A judgment of one person is made by another person. It is a method in which we systematize the expression of opinion concerning a particular personality trait. In rating scale, we rate an individual in the presence or absence of certain personality traits on a certain scale. The individual is given a place on the scale which indicates the degree to which a person possesses a given behavior trait. There are different types of rating scale: numerical scale, descriptive scale, graphic scales, rank order scales, percentage of group scales. Now, after knowing the rating scale, I would like to discuss with you what are the advantages of rating scale. It can be used with children. Suppose you ask any child, how much do you like particular teacher? So, can rate, you give a rating scale like numerical scale, that this scale is 1 to 7 a number, and the 7 number is the highest. If you like the teacher the most, you can give the 7 number to that teacher. So, it is numerical scale. It is helpful in discovering the need of an individual. It is helpful in supplementing information gathered with the help of other sources. They give us clue for the improvement. But the rating scale also have their own limitation. They are subjective, because we have given the choices to the particular student that you rate the teacher according to you, and the if that teacher is not liked, that person is not liked, that leader is not liked by the other student or other individual, may just list down on the lower one. It is having its own error, own lacuna, because it limits the contact between the rater and the ratee, because the rater is not knowing whom we are rating. Reliability of rating scale that way becomes low. And problem in constructing rating scale: if we want to rate someone, they should be constructed in a well manner. So, the errors in rating comes genericity error, stringency error, halo error, central tendency error and logical error. Genericity error in brief, some person have the traits of saying goody goody to everyone, so they are generous in rating the person. And stringency errors, some person have the personality to rate the person on the lower level. And halo error, sometimes we do not know what actually is being asked, and in a quickly manner we just want to finish up the work, complete the work. We just say this and we try to complete the work, so there comes the halo error. Then central tendency error, this is most of the persons they have the tendency that they put the person to whom we are rating on the average level. And the logical error, when there is the ambiguity in the language or in deciding, there comes the logical error. Now, after discussing the subjective and objective method, there comes the most important, which is considered the better one than the other method, that is the projective techniques. Projective techniques means to project one's own conscious wishes, thoughts, ambitions, fears, hopes and repressed desires on some external object. With the help of these techniques, the exposed can easily infer emotional, social and intellectual traits of individual, because they unconsciously attach their inner feelings with the external objects. Because by the time you must be knowing, listeners, that our mind is working 20% consciously, 80% unconscious mind work कर रहा है. So what are the inner feelings, what are the inner desires we want to come to know? Because some of the students, some of the persons are not very active, or they are not good in expressing their thoughts. They sometimes hesitate, they are introvert, they are shy. So through projective techniques, we apply some techniques in a game or other ways to know the inner interest of the children. There are various types of 10 types of projective test. One is Rorschach ink blot test. Second is thematic apperception test, children apperception test. Fourth is the word association test. Fifth is the sentence completion method. Sixth is drawing, painting and sculpture and features of handwriting, storytelling and story completion test. Then the next is role playing, dramatics and puppetry, and the last is the picture frustration study. First, in this pic you see, this is Rorschach ink blot test. In this, it was devised by Hermann Rorschach in 1921. It consists of 10 standardized ink blot cards. 5 are multicolored and 5 are in black and white. The cards are presented to the subject and asked, what do you see? The criteria of scoring and interpreting the card is whether whole or part is seen, color, texture, shading, form or movement is seen, animals or human beings are seen. If I remind you one's school days, most of the time one activity was being organized by the teacher, that you just throw some ink on white paper and you fold the paper and some picture will take its form, and the child is asked, what do you see in this? Some will say, I'll see a fairy. Some will say, I see a ghost. So some will say, I see animal. So accordingly, the interpreter will say, I see this. So according to this ink blot test, Hermann Rorschach wanted to tell that whatever is lying in our personality, we will express. Suppose I give you one example. There is a situation that a girl is sitting amid the forest under a shady tree, quiet and sad. And if you ask 3 or 4 persons, what do you see in this picture? Interpret accordingly. So whatever there will be in the mind, suppose there is a child who always shirks work home and is not able to complete the assignment, may interpret, oh, she might not have done the homework, teacher has punished her. her. A lover may say that she is waiting for the lover, and one may say she might have forgotten the way to home. So accordingly, whatever comes in our mind, that hidden repressed desires come out through this test. Then what are the uses of Rochas test? For classifying abnormal subject, delinquents, intelligence and aspects of personality can be interpreted very well according to this ink blot test, because sometimes we have pretension on our faces, whatever is there. Suppose we are not cooperative, but when question is asked to us, we'll say yes, we are very cooperative. So through these techniques, we try to frame such questions so that the inner hidden reality of the individual comes out. We frame in the objective or subjective method the question in this way, and in the projective techniques, through showing this picture, we try to know what is there lying in the mind of the individual. So on the basis of those inner feelings and what the individual is saying outwardly, we try to interpret the personality. But it has its own criticism, like the subjective and objective methods. It is subjective because the same thing, we need the experts to interpret it. So how the interpreter is interpreting according to him or her ideas, so it becomes subjective. Intuitive interpretation, because sometime our intuition hinders in our actual expression. Unsuitable for children, because the behavior of the children is very changing. Sometime they may say, I see a fairy in this, the other time say, oh, I see a lion in this. So, and moreover, it is time consuming, and we are not having experts in this area. The next is, they say in this pic, thematic apperception test. What is this? We know this test as TAT in the small form. This is thematic apperception test, known as TAT, was first planned by Morgan, then developed by Murray. This test consists of 30 pictures showing different life situations. Out of these, 10 are meant for man, 10 for women and 10 for both. Means 20 pictures are shown to each subject. Subject is asked to, subject here we mean by the person. In psychology we use the word subject for a person. So subject or the person is asked to explain the situation which he or she sees in picture. We can know dominant, whatever the person is saying, we can know his drives, needs, emotions, sentiments, complexes, conflicts, fantasies, social relationship, family relationship, attitude towards work, attitude towards life, etc., what he is thinking. So TAT exposes the underlying inherited tendencies which the subject is prepared to disclose. As we were talking about the interview and questionnaire and personality test or the personality inventory test, the subject will definitely say, yes, I will do this, I will do this, I am prepared for this task, may not be actually. So through these techniques, we try to know the inner feelings. Then the third is the children's apperception test, known as CAT. It was developed by Leopold Belloc. He states that children can possibly identify themselves with animal figures better than human beings. 10 cards are shown to them, then they are asked to make the stories about these animals. It is this story which reveals the problem of the child. See in this pic. Next we come on the word association test. Here emotional words like theft, suicide, crime, love, hatred, various words are spoken. Suppose we make the student sit. I'll say that I am saying 10 words. After listening those 10 words, you just repeat. So whatever the first word will be uttered by the particular child, on the basis of that we come out to know that this is the dominant trait of the individual.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yes, please.
We have a caller with us. Hello.
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 Yes. Please tell your name and ask your question. Good afternoon.
Ma'am, I have a question. Can I ask?
Yes. Please tell your name and ask your question.
Ma'am, my name is Pawan.
Yes, Pawan.
Madam, I want to know that is aesthetic is the criteria of personality? And my second question is how we can improve our personality.
Your first question.
And can Hello, ma'am.
Yes, please repeat your first question first.
Madam, my first question is, what is the is aesthetic is the criteria of personality, and my second question is, how we improve our personality, and can good vakab and erect posture can help in this?
Okay, fine. So he wants to know how he can improve his personality and how good posture contributes in the good personality, and aesthetics be the part of the personality.
Posture.
Yes, posture.
First, I would like to answer regarding the posture. Our backbone is directly related to our memory level. So if you remember, in our school days, our physical instructor, PTI teacher, used to say in our primary classes, sit straight, because while learning or while doing some activity, we sit in a straight posture, then the learning is better. And if we lean towards or lean to the table, then or in other posture, then our memory will be negative. So posture is very much related to our learning and improving the personality. And moreover, when you sit in the right posture, you look more smart also. And what was second?
He just want to know how can he improve his personality, what can be done to improve the personality.
Well, Mr. Pawan, you want to know how can we improve the personality. There are the various factors at home, at school, and the society which improve our personality. First, we can take the help of the teachers, that what are the lacuna in the personality. Suppose the child is not able to mix up with the other children. So I am taking one example. So we'll try to know by getting the help of the this technique of case history, what are the problems. Maybe that the child, that particular child who is not able to mix up with the students, maybe belonging to different type of family background, and other students may be teasing him out of the class. So this way, this problem can be solved by the teacher. So this way, there are the various problems which have different solutions. So this way, taking the help of the teachers, of the parents, and the peer group can improve our personality in a well manner.
And what about the gestures or the body languages? Whether it contribute in the personality?
Yes, Geetika ji, it definitely contribute our body language. Suppose there is a conference and we are not listening to the speaker. We do not speak by our mouth only, our whole of the body speaks. We will be restless, we will be changing the position, we will be seeing, looking at time and again on our watches, or we may be yawning. So these are the postures which convey our ideas to the speaker. Our body language convey that we are not having interest in the speaker. So this way our body language contribute in the expression.
Thank you, Pawan. Thank you for calling us, and we believe that you might have got answers of your question. Keep calling and be connected with these live lectures. Ma'am, we have less time left with us, so we would like you to...
How much time?
Yes, we have almost 3 minutes with us, so...
Okay. So, word association test. Then the simple sentence completion method. We give one sentence: if I were principal, if I were mother, if I were a teacher, so what would I have done? So this way we come to know the personality of the child. Then drawing and painting sculpture, we show the drawing and painting and ask the children, what do you see in this picture? On the basis of that expression, we come to know what kind of personality individual is having, whether he is focusing on the whole or the part, on the broken line or the strong line. I am briefing up. Then features of handwriting. There are 3 kinds of handwriting: backwards or erect or the forward. Always the erect position of the writing is considered, because there are the psychologists and educationists on the basis of looking at your handwriting can assess your personality. Then storytelling and story completion test. You tell the story and ask the students the moral. You give the half story and you ask the students to complete. And the role playing, dramatics and puppetry. You say that this is the story or this is the drama we have to enact. Choose your role. So accordingly accordingly we will come to know who is selecting which role. It shows the personality. Then the last is the picture frustration study. Here also we show the cartoon and we ask the children, what do you see? On the basis of these pictures, what he or she tells, we try to assess the personality. So as the less time is left, I would like to conclude that we have three methods: subjective method, objective method and projective techniques. On the basis of these techniques, we try to assess the personality of the individual, because again I am concluding that before we suggest the strategies as a teacher, as a psychologist, as a counselor, as a parents, as a peer friend group or the other community stakeholders, we will have to see what kind of personality individual is having, so that we can suggest the remedies and we can help out how you can improve your personality. Thank you.
With this note, thank you ma'am, thank you so very much giving us a productive session on assessment of personality. Dear friends, we believe that you might have learnt a lot from Dr. Parveen Sharma today, and if you have any questions, then do write to us at info.cec@nic.in. We will try to give answers to your questions when next time Dr. Parveen Sharma visits our studio. So keep watching us, keep writing us. We would be meeting again and would be discussing more. Thank you ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you ma'am. Thank you listeners.